Beate Meinl-Reisinger, and then we'll open it for questions. Minister, please.
Thank you. It's an honor to welcome Austrian Foreign Minister Beate Meinl-Reisinger. Austria is one of Israel's greatest friends in Europe. Our relations have deepened over the past 20 years. We are interested in further strengthening our friendship and bilateral relations. We had a good, positive conversation, and I thank you for, I appreciate your solidarity visit to Israel today. Foreign Minister, after Operation Rising Lion, and I look forward to closely working with you. Israel's successful operation in Iran, as well as other actions that we took in this war, have a direct and significant contribution also to Europe's security. The Iranian ballistic missiles that we severely damaged are missiles that can reach Europe. The drones that we hit are sent by Iran to be used in the war in Ukraine. The immediate danger of Iran becoming a nuclear state would have created a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. This would have undermined regional stability. This also would have affected Europe's security. I believe we are your strategic partner in this part of the world. You will not find other that really shares the same values and also the same challenges. Criticism of Israel, which does not take into account the complex reality we live in, does not help to overcome the challenges ahead of us. Israel is a country attacked on many fronts by enemies seeking its elimination, and we were always, even though we always had a sword in one hand, we never abandoned our democratic commitment and tradition. Israel is serious in its will to reach a hostage deal and ceasefire in Gaza. We said yes to Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's proposals, time and again. Unfortunately, until this moment, Hamas hadn't. It is now critical for Europe to back the American initiative for a ceasefire and to shatter Hamas illusions. If a temporary ceasefire is reached, according to Witkoff's proposal, it will be easier also to address the humanitarian situation. There are, of course, significant gaps between the two sides' positions. We refuse to accept Hamas dictates about the conditions to end this war. Hamas wants to end this war while effectively controlling Gaza. This will not enable Israel's security. This will not allow regional stability. Hamas is trying to use the hostages to force this outcome, but we are committed to achieving our objectives. We would prefer to do so through diplomatic means. But if that is not possible, we will have no choice but to use military means. Any country with a huge threat so close to its borders and communities would do so. But as of now, Hamas continues to hold our hostages, 50 of them, and refuses to lay down its arms. We are committed to continuing to facilitate the humanitarian efforts under difficult circumstances, as we have done since the beginning of this war. We expect our friends to see how problematic the system is. Hamas takes over the aid and uses it as an economic agent for its war machine. This causes the war to continue endlessly. The important GHF initiative helps address this issue. It helps the civilian population by allocating large amounts of aid directly to the people. This process must be strengthened. At the same time, we are enabling the previous aid method to breach the gap but it must be understood. Hamas gains from this method. We must strive to help the civilian population without strengthening Hamas. We have also opportunities in front of us. We paid for the new reality in the Middle East with the blood of our soldiers and citizens. Israel is interested in expanding the Abraham Accord circle of peace and normalization. We have an interest in adding countries such as Syria and Lebanon, our neighbors, to the circle of peace and normalization, while safeguarding Israel's essential and security interests. Israel applied its law to the Golan Heights over 40 years ago. In any peace agreement, the Golan will remain part of the state of Israel. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, dear Minister Saar, dear Gideon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for a very warm welcome in Israel. I believe I'm the first foreign minister to visit Israel after the ceasefire with Iran, and I told you when I told my European colleagues about my plans to go to Israel, because I planned to go some time ago on Tuesday, so I postponed it on Monday. I talked to my colleagues in the Foreign Affairs Council and said, I'm planning to go to Israel. Some of them told me, you're brave. And I said, no, it's not me who is brave, but it's the Israeli people that are brave, facing and living in times of existential threats. So this is, and showing, by the way, remarkable resilience. This is why I want to begin my remarks with a simple message. Austria stands firmly by Israel and the Israeli people as a true friend. Our commitment to Israel's security, sovereignty, and the right to exist is unwavering. As a nation, we carry the responsibility of our history. We talked about that, and we do not forget. My visit to Yad Vashem tomorrow will serve as a solemn reminder of that responsibility. Austria's support for Israel is built on more than words. It is based on our shared democratic values and demonstrated by our commitment to protecting Jewish life wherever it is under threat. Our strategic partnership, you talked about it, launched in 2022, reflects the strong and growing relationship between Austria and Israel. And honestly, we are deeply moved that 20,000 descendants of Holocaust survivors have accepted Austrian citizenship in recent years. This is a sign of reconciliation and renewed connection. And it makes the recent rise in anti-Semitic incidents, both in Europe and globally, all the more troubling and unacceptable. In times like these, open dialogue and diplomacy are paramount. That's why I'm here today, because true friends do not turn away in difficult times. This is my belief. Ladies and gentlemen, after our press conference, Gideon and I will go to Bat Yam to see firsthand the terrible impact of an Iranian attack on a civilian target. In this context, I want to be very clear. Iran must never be allowed to acquire a nuclear weapon. We have always recognized the threat posed by Iran, from calling for the destruction of Israel to directing its proxies to attack it. My heart goes out to all the innocent civilians who have lost their lives in recent weeks, and I sincerely hope that the bloodshed has finally come to a close, while a historic window for the return to dialogue and diplomacy opens. For us, a credible path forward must be based on respect for international law, credible restrictions on Iran's nuclear program, and effective oversight by the IAEA. To reach such an agreement, Austria is prepared to offer its support in any meaningful way, and of course, we again stand ready to host negotiations once again. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to address the situation in Gaza. The terrorist attack of October 7 was a moment of unspeakable brutality. The cruelty and the scale of the attacks shocked us, shocked the world, and shocked also me personally as a mother of 3 children in a way nobody would have ever imagined that. There can be no justification for such barbarism. Austria stands in full solidarity with Israel. At the same time, I believe that even in this difficult moment, there is a genuine opportunity to move towards peace in Gaza, precisely because the current situation is unsustainable. The humanitarian conditions on the ground are unbearable. They demand urgent changes. Let me be frank, the suffering of civilians is increasingly burdening Israel's relations with Europe. A ceasefire must be agreed upon, yes. Hamas must release all the hostages without preconditions, and humanitarian aid must resume. By the way, speaking about hostages, I was able to meet Tal Shoham when he returned to Vienna, and I was also able to visit the families of Guy Gilboa and Eviatan David. They also came to visit in Austria, and I think I'm going to see them today or tomorrow again, as well as Tal Shoham. And the family of Eviatan, I think they gave me in Vienna this as a reminder that he's still kept hostage in Gaza. And actually, it was not an intention to take it with me to Israel, but I carried it with me in my purse all the time. So I think it's just, we know what, we think about the families and the hostages all the time and hope for their immediate release. Of course, I talked about that Hamas must release all hostages without preconditions, and humanitarian aid must resume, not only in symbolic terms, but in the volume and scope that existed before the blockade, and in line with international humanitarian principles. Of course, the current escalation of settler violence in the West Bank must stop as well. Only then can the door open for credible political process. Such a process must be based on clear security guarantees for Israel and the disarmament of Hamas. Let me be clear, Hamas must not be part of Gaza's future. At the same time, Gaza cannot be stripped of its Palestinian character. In our assessment, this is the only pathway to long-term stability, aiming at the two-state solution. The role of regional partners, particularly the Arab states, will be essential in creating the political and security conditions for such a future. We see a historic window of opportunity. The people of Israel have shown extraordinary resilience, unity, and strength. They have a right to live in peace, free from existential threats. And this moment also offers a chance to shape a different future for the Palestinian people, a future without Hamas, but instead with dignity, responsibility, and the hope of coexistence. We owe it to all those suffering from the consequences of war, Israeli and Palestinian alike, to seize this chance for peace before it slips away. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Gideon, I would once again like to express my sincere gratitude for your warm welcome. I'm truly happy to be spending the coming days in Israel on my first official visit. It's not my first visit, it's my first official visit to Israel. These exchanges and the conversations we have already begun are an important step in strengthening our close ties. And Gideon, I very much hope you will find time in the near future to come to Austria so that I can welcome you with the same hospitality that you have shown.
Thank you, Beate. I will.
Great. Thank you.
Ministers will now take a few questions. Yes, please.
Good morning, Ministers. Thank you for the question. Mr. Saar, would it be fair to say, Dan Williams from Bloomberg, would it be fair to say that Syria is now a likelier prospect or a sooner prospect of making peace with Israel than Saudi Arabia is? And if so, how soon do you see that happening? And did you imply with your remarks just now that Israel would be willing to cede Syrian territory it took after the fall of Assad as part of a deal with Syria?
I don't want to speculate, but we will welcome Syria, as I said, to the peace and normalization circle in the Middle East as much as we will welcome the Saudis to join. We want to to have good relations with all our neighbors at the same level.
Thank you. Yes, please. Alex.
Hi, excuse me, Alexander Cornwall from Reuters. Minister Saar, with regards to your comments on Syria and Lebanon, if you were to reach a peace agreement, a normalization agreement with either of these countries, particularly with Syria, would you expect that Syria recognizes the Golan Heights as Israeli territory and essentially gives up any future claim to the territory? And to the Austrian Foreign Minister, if I may, Palestinians in northern Gaza are reporting overnight what they say is the most intensified strikes in recent weeks. There's been evacuation orders by the Israeli military in recent days. What is your thoughts, if I can, I know you've touched on it, expand on the situation in Gaza and how is this viewed in Europe? Thank you.
With regard to our position on the Golan Heights, it is very clear, as I said previously, the Israeli law was implemented there on 1981, some 44 years ago, and in any possible future agreement, it will be remained part of the State of Israel.
Well, regarding the humanitarian situation in Gaza, we remain very concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the fact that the UN is warning of a famine. Therefore, I was clear that humanitarian aid must be immediately allowed to be delivered. Again, the civilian population must not pay the price for Hamas actions. They are also kept hostage of the Hamas, yes, but humanitarian has to flow in Gaza. Aid must continue to be provided in accordance also with the humanitarian principles by the UN and other aid organizations. And for this reason, I think 23 European countries, together with Kaja Kallas, that signed a joint statement on humanitarian aid in Gaza.
Thank you. Laser, please.
Laser Berman from the Times of Israel. Foreign Minister Saar, good to see you again. Two questions. First of all, on the Saudi normalization efforts, how far do you think the government should go? How far would you like Israel to go on moving toward a pathway to a Palestinian state, if that is the condition for a Saudi deal? And number two, on settler violence that you talked about even this morning, we've had months of it directed against Palestinians, and we did not hear much from the government, and all of a sudden, when it's directed against IDF troops and IDF facilities, we start to hear a lot of condemnation from this government. Should there have been much stronger condemnation from the government beforehand when Palestinians were being attacked? And should the Israeli police and military have acted more strongly so we didn't reach this point? Thank you.
For the second question, any kind of violence by civilians is not allowed. The task, but self-defense in certain circumstances, but this is it. The task of the IDF and security forces is to take care for the security, and no one should act independently and regardless to the law. And it doesn't matter if the objective is attacking other civilians, other Israeli civilians, Palestinian civilians, soldiers of the IDF. It is all of these cases should be treated by our legal system in the most serious way. With regard to the first question, our view is that a Palestinian state will threaten the security of the state of Israel. And therefore we must learn the lessons from what happened here during the last 3 decades. And therefore I think that today, I know what is the EU position on the matter, including Austria, but we are those who are responsible for the security of our nation, And this is not something that we can do and be still committed to the security of our state, from my point of view. So if it is conditional, I don't think it is constructive. Any process with the Palestinians, just to make it clear, because what our expectations are. Any process should be based on the radicalization of the Palestinian society, addressing the core issues that can afford a reliable peace process, which are abandon the path of terror, abandon this ethos, which is the common ethos of, unfortunately, of the Palestinian society, all of it. Of course, part of it is stopping payments for terrorist families, according to the crime they did. This is something unbearable. This is something that they hadn't done until this day. I'm talking about the PA. Secondly, incitement. You cannot go for a reliable peace process while you poison the minds of the new generation in schools, kindergartens, textbooks, mosques, media. This must be stopped. So the conditions for peace, for real peace, are substantial. And when the Palestinian society, political system will start to deal with these basic questions, we will know that maybe we have a partner, but until now it's not the case, unfortunately.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. David Kriegleder, Austrian Public Broadcasting. Minister Saar, after October 7th, there was a huge wave of solidarity in Europe, especially in friendly countries such as Germany and Austria, not just among politicians, but also within the population. As the war in Gaza has dragged on, there's been some form of estrangement, the criticism is rising, and I'm wondering, how hard is it for you these days to explain and defend the Israeli conduct of the war to your European partners? And if I may, a related question to Minister Meinl-Reisinger, you've repeatedly said that the situation in Gaza is unbearable. Do you have the feeling that the concerns you're voicing are met by open ears by your Israeli counterpart? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we are aware to this sentiment in wide segments of European public opinion. We believe we are right. We are sure that the one which is responsible for the suffering of both people, Palestinian and Israeli, is solely Hamas. Not only because they initiate the war on October 7 with this barbaric attack, but also because until now, they refuse to release the hostages and they refuse to lay down their arms. So this is the truth we are presenting. We are not undermining concerns with regard to civilian population needs. We are dealing with that in very hard conditions. And not everyone that's criticized from the distance understand what the circumstances on Gaza Strip are, how Hamas is using the aid as a fuel to its war machine. And these are important facts, because finally we want to target the aid for the people themselves, but we don't want to empower the organization that led this population for these poor conditions. And this is a very difficult and complicated effort, and we would like our friends in the world as a whole and in Europe specifically to help us to think together, to cooperate. Tomorrow we will begin a dialogue with the EU, which I agreed with High Rep Kaya Kallas, that will take place here in Israel. And in this dialogue we will, of course, present our efforts, our problems in this efforts, and also we will look together for new ideas, new thoughts, cooperation, in order to be more successful with that. But one must understand it is a very complicated situation, and this is the result. By the way, in Lebanon, it was also a result of the fact that the terror organization took over the state. In Gaza Strip, it's not a terror organization, it's a terror state, a terror organization that took over a territory, enslaved the population for its aspiration and crazy ideology, and therefore this phenomenon, by the way, the Western world went out to uproot this phenomenon in the war against ISIS, not very far away from here, when they established their caliphate. Eventually, to end the suffering of the people from all sides, is to uproot this tyranny in Gaza Strip.
Thank you for your question. Well, let me say something about like my personality maybe. Because of course we have had a very lively discussion on the situation in Gaza, on the concerns regarding the humanitarian situation, and of course also the review of Article 2 and the question about further measures taken by the European Union. And it was, I'm not in favor of a suspension of the association agreement, to be clear on that. Why? Because I think it's important to stay in dialogue. More so, it is not helping the people in Gaza right now. So the question that I was asking myself is, what can I do to help the people suffering in Gaza? So I made the decision to not be only concerned in Vienna and Brussels, but to go here, to come here, and to have a conversation as a friend, but also a frank conversation about our concerns. That's also the reason why I started my travel in Cyprus, and then went on to Egypt and to Jordan, because the question is there, how to effectively organize the humanitarian aid also being distributed according to the principles we want them to be distributed, by at the same time recognizing the security interests of Israel. This is something that I'm concerned about, how to do it, and what can be done, and who are the partners there. But this is the way I think politics should be done, just not just sit somewhere and talking about being concerned, but to go here, have a frank conversation, and think about together as friends how to solve the situation.
Thank you. We'll take two more. Yes, please.
Fabian Sommerwiller from the Austrian daily Der Standard. The question is also related to the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. We've heard repeatedly that you were unhappy with the former situation with Hamas using humanitarian food basically to use it against as a weapon. Also, we've heard in the past few months very often that many of your Western partners are unhappy with the situation right now with the GHF. So if both sides can't agree on either one side the way the food and the humanitarian aid is distributed, why can't we think of a third option, and what could such a third option look like?
We are not excluding thinking about a third option. We are looking at the objective. The objective is, I repeat again, meet the needs of the people without empowering Hamas. Whatever path is possible to achieve this objective, we will support.
Hi, Mr. Saar. Minister Saar, Nathan Odenheimer here from the New York Times. Thank you very much for holding this presser. Also about the GHF, I think few little questions. Israeli officials are saying that the military prosecutor is considering an inquiry or an investigation into unlawful shooting of Palestinians, not in the sites, not in the distribution sites, but around them. Are you worried that the rules of engagement in Gaza in general and around those distribution sites violate the international law, and do you support an independent military inquiry into it? And then a second question is Israel, how much funds is Israel moving towards the GHF, if it's security or funding the aid itself? There are reports that it's supposed to invest another several $1 million into it. So I was wondering how much exactly and what you think of it. And for you, Minister of Foreign Affairs, is Austria considering also donating to GHF and for distributing aid in Gaza through this system at the moment? And will it support an EU resolution to do it? Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, the military prosecutor is independent, and you should ask her about the case. I simply don't know. Also, with regard to your second question, I cannot give you the figure. Maybe the finance minister can give you the figure. I cannot do that. I don't know.
I can give you a figure what Austria did after October 7, 2023. More than, like our humanitarian aid amounted for over more than 60 million euros regarding the situation in Gaza. And how did we do it? With what partners did we work together with? Those partners who are reliable, that are also committed to the principles. We are using taxpayers' money here. So we want to see it used properly. That means not getting in the hands of Hamas, but also used in a way that is done according to the principles of the United Nations and other organizations. Just recently, I think on Wednesday, the government took a decision to additionally have 3 million euros of humanitarian aid. And we do this via the International Committee of the Red Cross, because this is such a reliable partner, and the GHF is not.
Thank you. This presser is now over. Thank you.